My name is Eula Ayers, and I'm 34 years old. Last week, I saw another set of photos from my parents' latest family vacation pop up on Facebook. Three smiling siblings, their spouses, their kids, my parents standing proudly in the center, arms wrapped around everyone like a catalog image of perfect unity. The caption read, "Family is everything, truly blessed." You know what was missing from those photos? Me. Just like every other family vacation photo for the past 22 years. This wasn't because of a fight. It wasn't because of distance. It wasn't because of the pandemic. It was a pattern that started when I was 13 and never stopped. And this time, seeing those photos didn't just sting, it cracked something open. The first time it happened was December 2003. I was 13, sitting at the top of the stairs with my backpack already packed. Inside were my swimsuit, flip-flops, sunscreen, and a disposable camera I'd bought with 3 weeks of allowance. I'd been counting down to this trip for months. We were going to Cancun for Christmas. 2 weeks, all-inclusive resort, ocean, palm trees, sun. I came downstairs, backpack on my shoulder, ready to help load the car. My mom froze mid-fold, a towel hanging awkwardly in her hands. She stared at me like I'd walked into the wrong house. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Getting ready to go," I said, confused. My dad walked in from the garage carrying a cooler. He looked at me, then at my mom, then back at me. She sighed. That very specific sigh she used when she was irritated but trying to sound reasonable. "Sweetie," she said, "you're not coming on this trip." Just like that. No warning, no discussion, no preparation. Delivered as casually as telling me we were out of cereal. "Why not?" I asked. My voice cracked, betraying how unprepared I was for that sentence. Dad set the cooler down. "There's not enough room in the car, and someone needs to stay with Pops." Pops, my grandfather. My dad's father. He lived about 20 minutes away. "But it's Christmas," I said quietly. Mom was already zipping another suitcase, pressing down on the lid with her knee. "You never really fit in on family trips anyway. You'll be more comfortable at Pop's house. He'll take good care of you." You never really fit in. I'd never been on a family trip to know whether I fit in or not. 20 minutes later, I stood at my bedroom window and watched them load the SUV. 4 suitcases, the cooler, beach chairs. My siblings ran around the driveway screaming about palm trees and swimming pools. My younger sister nearly tripped over her flip-flops from excitement. Then my dad carried out the dog's crate and slid it into the back. The dog was going to Cancun. I wasn't. My mom got into the passenger seat. My dad started the engine. And as they pulled out of the driveway, my mom never once turned her head to look back at the house. Not once. That Christmas, I sat at Pop's small kitchen table eating microwaved leftovers while the Weather Channel showed tropical temperatures in Mexico and 6 inches of snow back home in Pennsylvania. I watched the screen cycle through sunny resort forecasts while Pops dozed in his recliner, the TV volume turned low. My siblings sent exactly 0 texts during those 2 weeks. That was the first time they left me behind. It wouldn't be the last. By the time they got back, it was treated like a non-event. No apology, no explanation, no, "we'll take you next time." Just souvenirs spread across the kitchen counter and stories about the buffet and the beach. And that was when something inside 13-year-old me quietly shifted. Because deep down I realized this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. The Cancun trip wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a rehearsal. The next summer, 2005, my parents went to Europe. 3 weeks touring London, Paris, and Rome. 4-star hotels, train passes, museums, cafes. My siblings posed in front of the Eiffel Tower, arms slung around each other like they'd stepped out of a travel magazine. I was 15. I'd just gotten an A+ on my European history project, the one I'd spent weeks researching, memorizing dates and landmarks I would never see in real life. That summer, I stayed at Pop's house again. The excuse came packaged neatly this time. "The trip is already so expensive," Mom said, "and you're so good at entertaining yourself at Pop's place." I watched documentaries about the Colosseum on the History Channel while my family stood inside it taking selfies. Christmas 2006, a 10-day Caribbean cruise. The photos showed crystal clear water, snorkeling gear, zip lining in Jamaica, and formal dinners at the captain's table. Everyone looked sun-kissed and glowing. I spent Christmas Eve eating reheated turkey with Pops while the ball dropped on TV and he fell asleep mid-countdown. The excuse? Cruise cabins are small. We could only get rooms for 4. I checked the cruise line's website afterward. They offered cabins for 5. By 2008, I'd learned not to pack a bag unless Pop's name was involved. That summer, my family rented an RV and did a 2-week road trip through Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon. Professional camping gear, matching hats, group photos in front of canyon overlooks. I stayed behind. You get carsick, Mom said. I'd gotten sick once when I was 7 after eating 3 hot dogs and riding a roller coaster. That was the justification for excluding me at 17. New Year's 2010. Aspen. A 6-bedroom cabin. Hot tub. Mountain views. You don't ski, Dad said. You'd just be bored sitting in the lodge. I'd asked for ski lessons for my birthday that year. They got me a $40 GameStop gift card instead. By 2011, I was 20 years old. They went to Disney World for 10 days, staying at one of those expensive resort hotels with monorail access. The photos showed fireworks, Cinderella's castle, character breakfasts. I'd loved Disney as a kid, obsessively. I asked if I could come. The answer was still no. Theme parks are overwhelming for you, Mom said. You'd have more fun at home. 2013, Hawaii, Maui. 2 weeks. Luau dinners. Sea turtles. Sunrise at Haleakala. The flights are too expensive, Sal, they said. We can only afford 4 tickets. 2 months earlier, they'd bought my brother a used car for $8,000. By 2015, they stopped pretending I might ever be included. An Alaskan cruise, glaciers, whales, salmon dinners. You're established in your career now, Dad said. You can take your own trips. I was 25, working an entry-level job with $2,400 in savings. I smiled and nodded anyway. Here's the part that hurt the most. They never asked me if I wanted to go. They never said, "Would you like to come?" They announced their trips like weather updates, already assuming my role was to stay behind. By 16, I stopped packing hopeful backpacks. By 18, I stopped asking questions. By 21, I barely reacted when they announced the next destination. The pattern was crystal clear. Every major family vacation, every holiday trip, every summer adventure. My 3 siblings went. I didn't. And every single time, there was a different excuse ready to go. Facebook became its own kind of punishment. Hundreds of photos every trip. Professional family portraits on beaches I'd never stand on. Captions about making memories and family first. People would comment, "You all travel so much together." I stopped clicking on the albums years ago. Not because it stopped hurting, but because I got tired of bleeding quietly. What my parents never realized was that all those weekends and holidays they pushed me away. They accidentally gave me something else, something real. But that didn't become clear until much later. For a long time, all I knew was this. I wasn't unlucky. I wasn't forgotten. I was excluded. And that truth settled into my bones long before I ever learned how to say it out loud. When my parents stopped taking me on vacations, they told themselves they were doing me a favor. What they never understood was that sending me to Pop's house didn't leave me lonely. It gave me a family. Pops lived in a small ranch house on the edge of town with a massive backyard full of fruit trees and a porch that creaked under your feet. The house always smelled like coffee and old books. His ancient golden retriever, Duke, greeted me at the door every Friday like I'd been gone for years instead of days. Pops never asked why I was there again. He already knew. He'd open the door, smile, and say, "There's my champion." And somehow, hearing that made everything hurt less. What my parents never bothered to notice was that Pop's house was never quiet on the weekends. By Saturday morning, Uncle Ray would pull into the driveway with bags of groceries for a barbecue. Uncle Keith followed soon after with his kids. Aunt Linda always arrived carrying desserts that could have passed for bakery displays. Suddenly, that little house filled with laughter, voices overlapping, plates clinking, and music playing too loud. And they included me in everything. My cousin Natalie was exactly my age. We became inseparable. She taught me how to skateboard. I helped her build her first gaming PC. We stayed up until 2 in the morning playing Super Smash Bros. And talking about everything we were afraid to say out loud anywhere else. Her younger brother, Trevor, followed us everywhere like a shadow, convinced we were the coolest people alive. We played soccer in Pop's backyard until it was too dark to see the ball. We built blanket forts in the living room. We watched movies piled together on the couch. Duke sprawled across everyone's legs like a living weighted blanket. My uncles taught me how to change oil, fix leaky faucets, and grill a steak properly. Things my own father never had time to teach me. The difference was stark. My parents spent thousands taking my siblings to resorts. My uncles spent their Saturdays teaching me life skills and actually listening when I talked. Uncle Ray never once asked why I wasn't on vacation with my parents. He'd just ruffle my hair when I arrived and say, "Hey kiddo, missed you. Help me set up the grill." That was it. No judgment, no pity, just belonging. Pops, though, saw everything. Every time I showed up with my backpack, His eyes softened in a way that told me he knew exactly what had happened. One night when I was about 16, we sat on the back porch after everyone had left. Pop smoked his pipe, something my dad hated, but I found comforting. Crickets filled the silence. Duke snored at our feet. "Pops," I asked quietly, "why do you think they never take me?" He didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, "Family isn't just blood." He looked up at the stars. "Family is who chooses to stay, who chooses to include you, who makes you feel like you matter." He turned toward me. "Your uncles love you. Your cousins love you. I love you." He didn't say my parents didn't. He didn't need to. As the years passed, the exclusions kept happening, but they didn't break me anymore. I stopped needing my parents' approval. I built my life around the people who actually wanted me around. When it came time for college, Pops and my uncles quietly pooled money together. My parents contributed $3,000 across 4 years, roughly the cost of 1 week of their vacations. Uncle Ray and Uncle Keith split my tuition without ever making it a big deal. "Family invests in family," Uncle Ray said whenever I tried to thank him. After graduation, I got a job in IT consulting, moved into my own apartment, and still spent Sundays at Pop's house. My parents showed up for weddings and milestone birthdays, acting like our relationship was perfectly normal. I let them, not because I forgave them, but because I didn't care enough to fight. Then I met Ethan. He transferred to our office from another branch and ended up on my project team. We bonded over late-night debugging sessions and mutual frustration with management. Our first real conversation happened at 11 p.m. during a system migration gone horribly wrong. "You're actually competent," he said after I fixed a brutal bug. "So are you," I replied. "Most people just forward me their problems and vanish." He laughed. "Want to grab food? There's a diner open all night." That diner became our place. He told me about his family, loud, close, imperfect but present. He mentioned his ex-girlfriend casually, as someone who never understood boundaries or accountability. It was said without bitterness, just clarity. On our second date, he invited me to Sunday dinner at his parents' house. I was terrified. Family dinners, in my experience, were performances. But his family was different. They asked questions. They listened. They made space for me. Afterward, I told Ethan everything. The trips, the excuses, Pops. He didn't minimize it. He didn't say they did their best. He just said, "That wasn't okay. You deserve better." No one had ever said that to me before. Ethan met Pops a week later. As we were leaving, Pops pulled me aside and whispered, "That man's a keeper." I smiled. I know. At the time, I didn't realize Pops was already thinking ahead. Neither did I. Pops had his stroke on a Tuesday morning in April. The call came at 6:32 a.m. It was Uncle Ray. His voice was steady, but there was a tremor underneath that told me everything before he even said the words. "Eula," he said quietly, "it's Dad. The hospital says we should come now." Pops had collapsed alone in his kitchen. By the time the ambulance arrived, he'd already lost consciousness. The doctors were careful with their words, the way people get when there's nothing left to soften. Days, maybe a week. I called my parents immediately. They showed up 3 hours later. My siblings arrived even later, glancing at their phones, standing awkwardly at the foot of the bed like Pops was an obligation instead of the man who'd raised half the family. They stayed 45 minutes. Then they said they were going to grab dinner and come back. They didn't come back. The rest of us stayed. Uncle Ray, Uncle Keith, Natalie, Trevor, Ethan, Jin, me. We rotated shifts so Pops was never alone. We held his hands, told him stories, played his favorite music quietly on someone's phone. On the third night, Pops woke up briefly. His eyes searched the room until they landed on me. He smiled. A real smile. "You're a good woman, Eula," he whispered. "Better than you know." Those were the last words he ever said to me. Pops passed away early Tuesday morning at 6:47 a.m. Uncle Ray held one hand. I held the other. The funeral was packed. Neighbors, old co-workers, poker buddies, church friends, people whose lives Pops had touched in ways I'd never even known about. My father gave the eulogy. He talked about what a wonderful father Pops had been. I stared at the floor and wondered when the last time was that my dad had visited Pops without being prompted by guilt or obligation. After the service, the lawyer read the will. Pops had been meticulous. The house went to Uncle Ray and Uncle Keith jointly. Savings accounts were split among all grandchildren, including my siblings. Then the lawyer paused. "There is one additional account," he said. A travel fund Pops had been building for 40 years. $127,000, left entirely to me. The lawyer read Pops's instructions aloud. "To my granddaughter Eula, who gave me her weekends when her parents gave her nothing but excuses. Take this money and see the world. Travel for both of us. You deserve every mile." The room went silent. My mother's face flushed red. My father looked stunned. "That's not fair," my brother muttered. Uncle Ray snapped back immediately. "When's the last time any of you spent a Saturday with Dad?" No one answered. My parents tried to contest the will. They spent $8,000 on a lawyer who told them exactly what they didn't want to hear. The will was airtight. The money was mine. 3 months later, I knew exactly what to do. Pops had always talked about New Zealand, so I planned the trip he'd dreamed about and took him with me. Ethan and I spent a month traveling the country. Mountains, fjords, glowworm caves, Hobbiton. I carried a small wooden box Uncle Keith had carved by hand. Inside were some of Pop's ashes. At every place Pops had ever pointed out on a documentary, I left a piece of him behind. At the final stop, I whispered, "Thank you for choosing me." When I got home, I posted 30 photos. The caption was simple: fulfilling Pop's dream, family first. I didn't tag my parents. They showed up at my house Sunday night, all of them, demanding explanations, demanding apologies, demanding I take the post down. Instead, I laid out 22 years of receipts, and finally said the words no one wanted to hear. This wasn't bad luck, it was favoritism. The truth landed like a bomb. They left angry, shaken, exposed. And for the first time in my life, I didn't chase after them. The house felt impossibly quiet after they left. No slammed doors, no shouting down the driveway, just the soft click of the front door closing and the sound of Ethan locking it behind them. I stood there for a long moment, heart pounding, waiting for the familiar wave of guilt to crash over me. It didn't come. Instead, I felt steady. Ethan wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. "You okay?" he asked quietly. I nodded, and for the first time, I meant it. I really am. The aftermath unfolded exactly the way you'd expect. My mom sent a long email about how hurt she was, how I'd embarrassed the family, how forgiveness was the only way forward. She wrote about moving on and letting go of the past without acknowledging a single specific thing she'd done. I didn't respond. My dad left 2 voicemails, both stiff and awkward, telling me he hoped we could reset and stop dwelling on old misunderstandings. I deleted them. My siblings fractured in different directions. My youngest brother sent me a message telling me I was being dramatic, that I was destroying the family over old stuff. I blocked him without replying. My sister and older brother reached out separately. We met for coffee, just the 3 of us. For the first time, they didn't interrupt. They didn't defend our parents. They listened. "We remember it differently now," my sister admitted, staring into her cup. "We were told you didn't want to come. We believe them." "Because why wouldn't you?" I said gently. "They were your parents." They apologized. Not carefully, not defensively. Really apologized. It didn't erase the past, but it changed the present. The Facebook post stayed up. So did the photos. Eventually, my parents unfriended me. I didn't notice until weeks later. Several relatives messaged privately, admitting they'd always wondered why I was never in family vacation photos. A few said they'd assumed I lived far away. Others admitted they'd noticed, but didn't want to pry. Uncle Ray called one evening. "Your dad asked me to talk sense into you," he said. "I told him he had 22 years to show you he cared." I thanked him. Ethan's family did something my parents never had. They didn't ask me to prove I belonged. They just acted like I did. His mom started signing birthday cards, "Love Mom." His dad called me when he needed help fixing things. His siblings added me to group chats without explanation. At holidays, no one questioned where I should sit. There was always a place for me. My parents tried again a few months later. They suggested family counseling, a shared trip, a fresh start. I declined. Not out of anger, out of clarity. I don't hate them, but I don't need them anymore. I spent too many years chasing their approval, waiting to be chosen. Now I choose myself, and the people who choose me back. Pops used to say family is who stays. Turns out he was right.